Taboos at the D&D table. Hello friends, fans, and foes. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Fancy Fatale. There are some things that when players or DMs think about it regarding D&D and role-playing, they just cringe, and it makes them want to leave the table. Well, these are some things we're going to discuss today. The first one is romance. I just made a video discussing this, but it's an obvious taboo. When we don't know everyone's comfort level, if perhaps we have skipped out on discussing it prior to starting the game, or when someone perhaps didn't realize what the level was or came in later and wasn't established, or if they just push that boundary regardless of rules being set, it can cause a lot of discomfort with people. When you start describing a romantic encounter and no one really wants to hear about it, maybe just summarize and let people assume what they want, and it's all good for you because your character got to witness it in your brain. But of course, I think romance is totally fine and needed in roleplay, but definitely with some understandings of boundaries, of course. Fudging Rolls. D&D and all other type of dice-based tabletop role-playing games have dice, and that is where the additive point of luck or random chance comes into the role-playing, and it's not just us telling stories to each other. This is allowing our characters to have, you try something, you fail, it's funny. You can't always hit, you can't always persuade well, and you can't always get natural 20s. There's no strife or fun to that. It's boring and it kind of annoys people. So at times, if you notice when a player is fudging the rolls, it may be wise to bring it up to your DM. If you're the DM, have a discussion with them. There was one player who had a, weighted die in a way. It had a bubble in it because it was a plastic black one. And we did use the oil test, and the 20 and a 17 on all the high ones above 15 kept popping up to the top. And we had to give him a new one and say that one was dead because it's a cheating die. When it comes to DMs fudging rolls, I think it's a little bit different, only sometimes due to the fact that you are the world. And if you want to continue the story and you want to not kill off the characters due to a mistake in your planning or your calculations of an enemy, I think it's okay. I think you can, that's why the board is up, that's why you can have some facade of they don't know what you're doing or what you're deciding upon, because you are helping them tell a story, but they have to then fit in the rules of your game. Don't do this too much, because then it's just, where are the rules? How do you have any boundaries if you change roles all the time? You have to allow crits hitting when crits hit, but if it happens too soon and there's no plan for it and level 1 or something, maybe fudge the roll. Dice Superstition. Similar to what I just talked about, it's when people have either tons of dice for different types of spells. They could have a dice per character, a set per character, or have multiple sets per one character. And this is superstition, but it's also culture around dice in D&D. It can be a very fun thing and a very lighthearted thing. Some people can take it much more seriously, where they don't want people to roll their dice because they think it's adding like bad juju or something to it. Totally understandable. Something I like to do sometimes with my characters is if it's not rolling well, like consistently not rolling well, and this is a metal die or something I've tested that's not like a skew, I like to add a ritual or a specific way that I roll that die for that character. I have one, Bloodhunter, Lita, in the story Fayward, where she only rolls 20s in roleplay when it's really important to her progressing what she wants, but she can't roll very well in combat. But the way I roll her die is that I throw it like I'm angry, and it generally gets a 20 when I do roll it like that. While for other characters like Tox, I like to have it incense out or a few candles and then rub it in Gemini oil. And I'm figuring out what other characters want when I roll for them. And it's more of just a fun way to add things to the game. Some people don't care at all and they use one set of dice for everyone, and that's totally up to you. It can be a taboo though, because some people think it's silly, but it's fun for other people. Levels of roleplay can definitely be taboo. You want to establish how well or how deep you go into roleplay, if there's voices people want to use, or if there's ways to clarify if you're talking in character or not talking in character. I am generally always talking in character, even if I don't have a voice. Whatever I'm saying, if it's in a game, it is canon to what the character's saying. And otherwise, I would say, pause, DM, and ask a question outside of character. Or if I laugh absurdly out of character and make a really bad joke that is off from my character design, clearly it's not the character, and I will then say afterwards, That was not the character. I apologize. That was just very funny. Canon, she or they say this. Some people, I get irritated when I'm in the middle of a roleplay and everything seems immersive and it's a very deep situation, but someone wants time to think about something, so they'll respond like they're responding to me, but say it like in a slightly different voice, but it's not their character voice, and I'm like, are you saying this in character? And I have to break out of immersion to ask them. And I get it, some people have a harder time deciding, but I think improv is a lot about reacting in the moment. So it's a taboo on many different levels. Doing too much roleplay is a bit cringe for people. Not doing any, in my opinion, is cringe, so it's up to you. Metagaming. The bane of all existence. What I avoid all the time with characters and telling people things. When I attempt being a dungeon master, I literally made it a rule in the beginning of the game. Everyone, when you hear something, make sure you understand and write down what your character has actually heard. If you have to do a perception check, mark that you did not hear this. So you cannot bring it up in conversation later, because then it is breaking a lot of immersion when the character's like, oh yeah, your character didn't know that, you weren't there. And you have to be like, oh, right, okay, I thought I did know that. It's like, no, this was recorded, you got a perception too low, etc. Because I've had times where I had to tell other characters, hey, my character's like this, and they say, oh, I know that. It's like, no, actually, I told you that out of roleplay, literally in a different scenario, not on D&D day. And then they were like, oh no, it's totally being used here. I'm like, that's unfair. You didn't know that, and it kind of kills the consistency of the roleplay. Of course, you know, some people don't care about metagaming, they just want to solve a game like it's a video game. I hate that. I think to make everything immersive and understandable, we need to all have an understanding of what your character understands, what the player can understand, and move forward. Power gaming. This one's usually associated with the metagaming, but they're not the same thing. Power gaming is a type of optimization to make sure that your character build is so good that it will always do well in what it's supposed to do, as well as in combat a lot of the time. So some people might sacrifice the quality of their character design to make sure they have the best combat abilities. Like they might choose to take Paladin when they're a rogue just so they can get smite on top of sneak attack. Valid, and that's been done clearly in Critical Role and hundreds of thousands of times prior to that in home games. But if you're just doing it to optimize and you can't even try to improv and think of a reason why, then it's gonna take us out, because we're gonna say, oh, whoa, why did that character take this? Have they had a religious experience recently where they want to lean into that? Try to think things through if you're gonna power game, because power gaming itself is fun. It's great to try to think through things. You also have to discuss it with your DM and see what is available to your characters and how to keep everyone at a slightly similar level of power. Well, that's all I have. Please let me know what your personal pet peeves and taboos are at the D&D table. And if you want to support me, I have a comic on www.fancyfatale.com. If you like the videos, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.